the 31st of May, and it's Memorial Day. And I'd like everyone just to take a moment, I hope, at some point today in the United States, that what Memorial Day is and what it means to you. But today we are going to rant, rain, shine, whatever we can do. David, what are we ranting about today?
Well, before we get into the rant, Stuart, I want to thank everybody for joining us on Memorial Day, and a shout out to all of the veterans and those who served in the various conflicts around the world. Us in Canada, we're very grateful to the Americans, especially in helping us for freedom and what have you. And we wish all their families the very best on this Memorial Day Monday. In Canada, we have it on a different day, but once again, our shout out to all the vets in the United States. The Rant Network, just so you know, was based, for those of you who are kind of new to this, is two gentlemen who go unrehearsed, and who, even though we have music in our background, which is part of our fun here, we do this unedited. We do this live. We don't opt for like other podcasts that go into post-production and what have you. We go at this unrehearsed, and we discuss, frankly, topics that are kind of controversial, in the news, not in the news. As you saw last week, Stuart did a great job of putting up something that had not even gotten to the news.
Still is not in the news.
And yet here we are, folks, and today I want to talk about another topic today that really kind of was mentioned in the news very briefly, but it's a bigger topic. And that is about religion in schools and how it's been systematically been eliminated in so many institutions and has been replaced by, amongst other things, critical race theory and other ideologies that are supposed to shape our future of our students. Now, folks, let me start off by saying, why did I think of this topic and why are Stuart and I going to rant a little bit about it? And it emanated from a Michigan student who was a valedictorian and wanted to reference God in the speech. And you cannot imagine the reaction they got. The visceral reaction that that student should not be permitted to mention God or any religious beliefs whatsoever. That it was a heinous crime to do such a thing. Anyways, they rescinded that and they went back, and the student had the constitutional right at that point of freedom to express, their feelings. But it's fascinating to see, and that's what really created that thought of like, what happened to any form of religious education in schools? Now, let me preface this. I'm not saying, you got to go back to the 1960s where everybody needs to stand up in front of the room and say the Lord's Prayer and needs to, and have that discomfort. And I get the notion that, we look at schools today, in public schools today, and not everybody is the same religion. I totally and utterly get it. But let me stress one thing. Not teaching religion in school is a huge error on several fronts. And let me stress the first one. The first one is the basis of which the United States and Canada, and quite frankly, part of the Western world that we claim to be, as our society that we're so proud of, is based on Judeo-Christian values. Values. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Honor thy mother and thy father. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not commit murder. Thou shalt not commit adultery, which seems to not matter apparently in the 21st century, but let's not go there. But the whole thing is that these basic values and tenets that we have all emanated from Judeo-Christian values. Yep. Now, I understand that both U.S. and Canada are extremely large melting pots, and that we love to bring in people from all over the world. So whether you're Hindu, Taoist, Muslim, it really doesn't matter. The base core of what our countries are fundamentally, built on was Judeo-Christian values. And yet, we're not allowed to talk about that in school. We can't teach that in school. Mistake number one. Mistake number two is I really don't understand why we don't teach not only about my religion or our religion or how about any religion? I'm going to tell you, Stuart, when I left high school, I knew nothing about any other religion. I mean, to tell me that I grew up watching the Charlie Brown Christmas special and I should now understand what Christmas was all about, was hilarious. Okay, thanks to Charles Schultz for creating that show so that I knew what Christmas was all about, because I didn't learn that in school. But by contrast, I met tons and tons of people who knew nothing about Islam, Hinduism, Taoism, Judaism, you name it. Even Greek Orthodox versus Methodist versus Baptist, zero. We know nothing. And then one of the things that I think would be really helpful is to bring that back into school, shelve the freaking critical race theory, and put these back into school, teaching the concepts of ethics, religion, and culture in a proper way, so we finally get to understand each other, rather than continue with these racial theories that are just starting to take shape and are becoming more divisive than inclusive. Stuart, pass the ball to you, buddy.
Well, all right. So basically, I grew up in Montreal, Quebec, went to a high school called Beaconsfield High, among a few others called Riverdale. But one thing that I remember very fondly from Beaconsfield High is that we had a mural, and we had to write an essay along with dancing the Gay Gordon to graduate from high school. Or that was a requirement given to us by all of our English teachers. There was Martin Luther King. There was, I'm trying to think here, the nun. I can't even remember now. Getting old. Mother Teresa. There was Gandhi. There was everyone. And, like our school, we talked about all religions. You had to do humanities. It was a mandatory class from grades 9, 10, and 11. Yes, I graduated high school in grade 11. And I've got to tell you, our school, I think, was exemplary on teaching everyone tolerance of everyone else's religion. And you know what? I thank my school curriculum, and that's the Lakeshore School Board, for allowing me to know about all religions, tolerance of all religions, and the freedom to practice my religion. And today, what it seems in the education system globally is that people, and these are the educators, are adopting this far left CRT movement in replace of that. And it's been slow and steady. It hasn't been like instantaneously, let's teach CRT. Let me just give a background. What is CRT? CRT is basically trying to imply it's the modern day civil rights movement, when in fact it's the anti-civil rights movement. In the civil rights movement, just so I give 1 second to this, a black man would hold a sign, "I'm a man." The CRT movement would have it say, "I'm a black man." Humanity is not the color of your skin. It's the blood in which you bleed. And no matter what religion, what race, what culture, whether you're Asian, Indian, Canadian, or any other religion, you're bleeding red. And that is the concept, in my opinion, as well as was Martin Luther King's, and even the the Muslim Malcolm X. It is the color in which your blood is. And the school systems are really disgusting and duplicit. They're teaching primary and secondary kids who don't even see color of their skin and saying you're bad because you're white. And you should be apologetic to everyone that is not of white skin. And that is the education curriculum that you're reading or hearing about in the news, but not really understanding what they're doing, because it's not this altruistic thing. Thank you, Bal, for making a good point and agreeing with me. Why are we having two white guys talking about CRT education and racism? Well, you know what? Just because we're white doesn't mean we don't understand what this is. I went to school where we learned about religion. David learned about religion as well. I don't see that there's a problem in making a statement that as long as you don't bother your peers, it's acceptable. And then you find these left-wing radicals. I heard a kid praising God and I was hurt. And now that kid is being punished. Sounds just like that speech that was done in Michigan. Those speeches are done all over the country, David. It's disgusting and duplicit. And you know what? These people should be taken out of the school system, replaced with people that teach love, not hate, teach togetherness, not exclusionists, right? These are the people that we were brought up and taught we must watch out for. They are the boogeyman. And you know what? Why is it that the Asian American is the bad person too? They want to pay reparations and teach this in school, just so you know, David, in the United States. But what about the Asian Americans that were locked up like animals during the World War, right? These are parts of our history that were wrong. They need to be taught. They need to be explained, because without explaining them, we'll have another massacre in Africa or the Congo. We'll have another massacre in Germany. We'll have another massacre in China, in Japan, in every single country that I can possibly list. It's inclusionism, not divicism. David?
Listen, Stuart, I agree with you what you're saying, and
you agree with me?
No,
listen,
almost.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is unrehearsed, and David and I typically don't agree in its entirety in all our broadcasts.
But Stuart, let me take it a step further, where you guys don't realize the slippery slope, and the slippery slope is what I'm experiencing here in Quebec. First, it started off with, let's get rid of education, the religious education in public schools, and that's what they did. So you're not allowed to teach about Christmas, and you're not allowed to teach about, Ramadan, and you're not allowed to teach about, Passover, and you're not allowed to teach about any Eid, any holiday, anything you want. You can't. In fact, the government sent out inspectors into schools to ensure that this is not happening. That's how vile it was.
Oh, that sounds like Gestapo, SS tactic.
Oh boy. Now let's go to step 2. The elimination of the symbols. Now, this is what is really scary, people, is that first you start off in schools, and then you say, well, wait a second, no religious symbols by any public officials. Imagine, if you will, a judge or a teacher being told they cannot wear a hijab, a cross, a Star of David, a kippah, anything, nothing religious at all. And if you do, you won't be hired for that position. By the way, there's a shortage of teachers in Quebec, and there are tons of religious teachers who are ready to teach secular studies, but will not remove the religious symbols and are told you are not welcome to teach in the public system. So the next step, inevitably, is the systematic removal of symbols. Then you're going to go to the next thing of forcing people to hide religion. Guys, this is, religion is who and what we are. I don't care that Ron Reagan Jr. was on TV last week at a commercial. I saw him yesterday talking about how he's a proud atheist and we should remove every form of religion. You know what? That's good for you. But it's not good for everybody. It's not good that every single person who believes in the religion, and there are many Americans and Canadians who still hold religion as true to form as in their heart, and you tell them you cannot. Guys, praising God isn't going to turn people into radicals, and it's not going to turn them into religious zealots. Hate is going to turn people into those things that you're describing.
Ignorant.
And what you described, and why I agreed with you, is because these theories are starting to creep into the school system as a way to overcompensate for years of historical errors.
It won't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Listen, they removed God from the classroom in the United States in 1962. And I got to tell you, I think that's probably the first mistake. I think everyone should be allowed a moment to pray to whoever, whatever they ever wanted. Big tech is censoring people. And you know what? We have a governor in Florida, DeSantis. And I think DeSantis is now standing up to these people. You know what? I would like to take a moment. Next broadcast is Wednesday at noon. And I think we're going to talk about censoring big tech and DeSantis, David. What do you think?
But I'll tell you, let's finish up with this religion thing, and then we could talk about.
We got 30 seconds.
But I'll tell you, folks, at the end of the day, be careful. And Stuart talked about censoring, but that's exactly what's happening in schools. When you start censoring religion, what's next? Where does it end, people? And you got to realize that if you start doing this, then all those freedoms that we've all fought so hard for on Memorial Day, all those freedoms are pissed out the window, folks.
Watch out. And you know what? It's funny. It's a slippery slope, because once you lose the right, You're never going to get it back.
You're never
and
getting
you know
it
what?
back.
People really take for granted. There was blood spilled to make the United States the country that it was. Brother against brother, sister against sister, family against family. And those rights were spilt and earned with blood. And if we're going to walk away and just let it go, just understand you're not getting it back without a war. It just doesn't happen.
Wow.
And it's really, really, really the lack of understanding on how our liberties were created. And that's something that we should also talk about going forward, is, how the liberties created the most envious country in the world, right? United States is the beacon of light in the world. Always has been.
Love the American arrogance.
Yes. You know what? With all due respect, David, when your country is being attacked, you go to the Americans to go and save you. Canadians come along and help Australians and Europeaners, but let's not go there.
Stuart, right, let's wrap it up, because our people, folks, wanted to hear about our topic for today, guys. On Wednesday, and again, this is all part of the rant, and again, it's a whole thing. So we have on both sides of the border, we have a very interesting thing about censoring big tech. Governor DeSantis in Florida wants the ability to stop censoring all these political moves. And on the Canadian side, the Liberal government, the Liberal minority government, is trying to censor. They're claiming not, but they're just trying to censor what you see on Netflix and YouTube. What's the difference?
Well, it sounds like China.
Well, guys, let's talk about that on Wednesday. Noon Eastern. We're here live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon Eastern. Share us, like us, love us. We're all over the place right now. All the social media channels. We're all the podcasting channels. Folks, we wish you a healthy and happy day. Once again, all the very best to all of my American friends on this Memorial Day.
Thank you. David, you be